Script: if you could stand where I once stood, looking out over the sprawling expanse of the Roman Empire at its height, you might think you were looking at supreme power. You might see the marble columns, the disciplined legions, the vast wealth flowing into Rome, and imagine that the man at the helm of it all, the emperor, was the master of the world. But as I look back now across the centuries, speaking to you as one soul to another, I tell you that the purple cloak of the emperor was heavier than any armor. My name is Marcus Aurelius. History has called me the Philosopher King, a title I never sought but strove to earn every day of my life. I share my story with you now not to boast of conquests or golden ages, but to show you that even at the pinnacle of worldly success, the true battles are fought within the silence of one's own mind. I was not born heir to the throne. My early life was filled with the quiet joys of study, surrounded by scrolls in dusty libraries, learning rhetoric and philosophy. I fell in love with the teachings of the Stoics, men like Epictetus, who taught that true freedom comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling our responses to it. I imagined a life of contemplation, perhaps teaching in Athens, far from the noise of politics. But fate, that mysterious weaver of our destinies, had other plans. Emperor Hadrian, near the end of his life, set in motion a succession plan that would eventually place the weight of the empire squarely upon my shoulders. When the news came that I was to be emperor, I did not rejoice. I wept. I knew the cost. I knew that the quiet, reflective life I cherished was over. In its place would be duty, endless responsibility, and the constant glare of public life. And indeed, my reign was not a time of peace. It was marked by near-constant crisis. The northern frontiers exploded in violence as Germanic tribes, driven by desperation, hammered against our defenses. For years, I traded the comfort of the palace for the harsh reality of the military camp. I defined my life not by the marble statues erected in my honor, but by long nights in cold tents near the Danube River, the sounds of suffering soldiers nearby, trying to find stillness amidst the chaos of war. It was there, by flickering candlelight, exhausted and often alone in my thoughts, that I wrote the notes you now know as meditations. They were not meant for you. They were meant for me. They were my spiritual exercises, my desperate attempts to hold on to my sanity and my principles when everything around me seemed to be falling apart. I wrote to remind myself that even surrounded by war, I could remain a man of peace inside. But war was not the only trial. A devastating plague, brought back by the legions from the east, swept through the empire. It killed millions. I watched friends, family, and trusted advisors wither and die. The streets of Rome, once bustling with life, echoed with the carts carrying the dead. It felt as though the gods themselves had forsaken us. Yet, Stoicism taught me that we cannot control what happens, only how we respond. I could collapse under the grief, or I could do my duty. I chose duty. I sold imperial treasures, even my own wife's jewelry, to fund the wars and aid the sick, refusing to tax a populace already brought to its knees. I learned that leadership is not privilege. It is servitude. It is bearing the burdens of others so they might stumble a little less. My personal life, too, was fraught with difficulty. My wife Faustina, whom I loved deeply, was often the subject of vicious rumors. My son and heir Commodus showed signs of the cruelty and instability that would later define his disastrous reign. Watching a child take a dark path is perhaps the greatest pain a parent can endure. Yet I had to accept that I could teach him. I could model virtue for him, but I could not live his life for him. His soul was his own to govern. Why do I tell you this? Because I know that as you look back on your own 60 or more years, you too have faced battles. You have seen dreams deferred. You have known grief. You have watched the world change in ways you did not ask for. My life as emperor was merely a magnified version of the human condition. We all wear crowns of responsibility, heavy with expectation. We all face our own personal wars and plagues. My legacy is not the borders I defended or the laws I enacted, many of which are long forgotten. My legacy, if I have one, is the testament that it is possible to maintain a good character in a bad world. It is possible to be powerful without being corrupt. It is possible to be surrounded by noise and still find a quiet inner sanctuary. As you navigate the later chapters of your own life, remember that your story is still being written. The obstacles you face today are not blocks to the path. They are the path. And like the weathered stone of an ancient temple that stands firm against the centuries of wind and rain, you too possess an inner citadel that can withstand anything faith throws against it.